Hey guys, we're going to go through the digestive system today. We're going to try it with me on here so you can actually see me instead of just hearing my voice as we go through these. So we're going to start with the digestive system, and then we have the urinary system as well this week. So you have the digestive system. Basic functions. I would know the difference between these four words here. So ingestion is actually where you take nutrients into your body, where you're actually eating. So you're ingesting. And they're kind of broken down into like the steps here. So you have ingestion, and then you have digestion, which is where the chemicals or other things in your body are actually breaking those down. So we have mechanical, and then we have chemical breakdown. All the food that you eat, you actually can't use in the form that you have it in, or that you're eating it in. So it has to be broken down. And then the next kind of step or the function is absorption. So your body is actually going to absorb the chemicals and other nutrients that it needs. And we'll get into exactly how that happens in the different kind of layers of the digestive system. And then excretion, which is the removal of waste. And basically that's when you go to the bathroom. Here are the digestive organs that we're going to talk about. So you have the mouth, the pharynx, esophagus, the stomach, small and large intestines, the rectum, and then the anus, which is at the end. So we kind of start at the top, and then we're going down to the bottom here. Here's a picture of all of that, but we'll get into it. So you have the mouth, and the most, or I shouldn't say the most, one of the most important functions of the mouth is mechanical digestion, so actually chewing. So that's actually kind of breaking it into smaller pieces so you can actually, swallow, and you're not trying to choke onto bigger pieces of food. And then you have chemical digestion, which is actually starting to break down the carbohydrates. That's mostly what you're breaking down. So you're breaking it down again into the usable forms that you need. And you can see that there's a lot of different things in this picture. And you guys will get into that a little bit with the assignments that you're going to do. So after it goes into your mouth and you do mechanical and chemical digestion, it's going to head to your pharynx, which is your throat. And this is broken into three parts, and I would know these three parts right here. So you have the nasopharynx. Naso means nose, so it's going to be closer to the nasal cavity. Oropharynx, so oro means mouth, so you're going to be at the very back of your throat. And then you have the hypopharynx, which is just the next one down. And the function or the purpose of the pharynx, is a passageway for food, liquids, and air. And then remember, if it's air, it's going to come down the pharynx till it hits the trachea to go down to your lungs. And then you have your epiglottis that's going to cover that, so that's not where your food and water doesn't go down that. Okay, then you have your esophagus. This is a muscular tube, so your esophagus is made out of muscles in it, so it can actually move the food particles down. But it's located behind the trachea, so we would also say it's posterior, if you remember that. It's about 10 inches long, and it's going to transport food from your mouth and pharynx down into your stomach. Your stomach is J-shaped. It's located below your diaphragm. So if you breathe in, you can feel your diaphragm, and then right below that, it's mostly located on the left-hand side of your body, or the biggest portion of it is going to be on the left-hand side of your body. The function of your stomach is chemical digestion of proteins. And so carbohydrates get broken down in your mouth, and then we start to break down proteins in your stomach. So you have gastric juices, or stomach acid is another term that we refer to that as, that are actually going to be breaking those down. So that's actually chemicals. The mechanical breakdown that happens in your stomach, so you have it happening in your mouth as you chew. But when it gets down to your stomach, you've kind of heard it like churning, like moving before. So it's also called maceration. That's just where your stomach is actually moving to help break things down. There are three regions, and you're going to need to know what these look like, but you have the fundus, the body, and the pylorus. I'm going to show you on this next slide. So the fundus is actually this top part right here. So you have your esophagus coming down. The fundus is going to be the top part. The body is going to be this other part, basically the main part. And then the pylorus is going to be this lesser part down here. So it's where it starts to go into the small intestine. The small intestine is going to be for chemical digestion. So again, we're going to be breaking down into nutrients that we need and absorbing those. And there's 3 divisions. So it's called the duodenum. That's the first kind of portion, or where the stomach kind of connects into the small intestine. So it's going to be the duodenum. And that's where a majority of chemical digestion occurs. And I would know kind of what all these 3 things are absorbing. Then you have the jejunum, which is the middle portion of the small intestine. And this is where a majority of the nutrients get absorbed. So the first portion, they're still doing digestion. The jejunum, they're actually absorbing nutrients. And then the ileum is going to be the final portion where absorption actually occurs. And that's where the ileum is actually where the large intestine is going to be connecting in. So that's the small intestine. So you can see here the duodenum. So this is where the stomach would be and connecting to here. So you have your duodenum and then your jejunum, and yes, it curls like this, and then your ileum, which is basically underneath right here, and it actually empties into this large intestine. So the large intestine, this is kind of the last major part of the digestive system. This is where the last of the absorption takes place, and I would know that. So absorption of water, vitamins, electrolytes, that's actually also producing your vitamin K that you need. And then, so after it absorbs everything that it can, then it's going to form the feces. So anything that's left over gets turned into feces. So here you have it. So the cecum is actually the part that is like this lowest part where the ileum actually drops it into the large intestine. So you have this whole space right here would be the small intestine taking that up. And then you have the ascending colon. So colon is just another word for the large intestine. So you have the ascending colon, transverse, which hopefully makes sense because it's going across the body, and then your descending colon, and then the sigmoid colon, which is just where it's going to head down to the rectum. So the rectum is actually the last portion of your large intestine. So it's considered to be part of the large intestine. But basically it's just a storage before you go through excretion. And then the anus, which is actually where it comes out. You guys know that. So this is just where waste gets excreted from the body. So here everything is together. So you'd have your mouth up here, it comes down to the esophagus, into your stomach, and then it moves through into the small intestines, and yes, it gets squeezed all through here, and then squeezed up and out. So now let's talk about the diseases and careers. So you guys have heard of colon cancer. So when somebody has colon cancer, it's basically in their large intestine. But basically what it is you get a polyp, which there's that word right there, which is a benign tumor. A benign tumor is not cancerous, but if you don't get those polyps taken care of, they can turn into cancer because they're going to start reproducing more and more cancer-like cells. So you have the symptoms would be fatigue, weakness, shortness of breath, change in bowel habits, so any change going to the bathroom like diarrhea, constipation, red or dark blood in the stool, any of those types of things, weight loss, abdominal pain, cramps, bloating, any of those different, or all those are all symptoms, excuse me if I could talk today, you guys. Those are all symptoms of colon cancer. Most of the time, depending on how far along the cancer is, you guys have heard of like stages, so like stage 4 is really, really aggressive, whereas like stage 1 is not, and they can usually take care of it. But most of the time they are going to go in and have surgery of some type so they can treat it. And then most of the time after they have the surgery, they'll probably go through some type of like chemo. So there's the first disease. The next one is Crohn's disease. You may or may not know somebody that has this. I've had a couple students in the past. So it's basically just an inflammation of the digestive tract. So there's no cure for this. It's just they're born with this. It's kind of a genetic disorder, but it can affect any basically anywhere from the top of the head, from the mouth, all the way down to the anus. Most of the time, it affects the small intestine, so the ileum. So what happens is that an inflammation, so it's going to swell up, and so the swelling is actually going to cause pain, and then it's going to make the intestines empty frequently. So this person is going to have diarrhea, and they're going to need to use the bathroom a lot. So that's this type of person. Usually they can take some medications and help with the symptoms, but there is, like I said, there's no cure for this. This is what it looks like. So you can see it's kind of inflamed, and it's going to just make everything kind of pass through quickly. You guys have heard of celiac disease. So this is somebody that cannot absorb gluten, which you guys know gluten found in a lot of different things. So these people have to make sure that they're watching their diet. So they have to have gluten-free. Most of the time, if they have like a little bit of gluten, depending on the person, excuse me, it's not going to affect them that much. But sometimes that person's going to get kind of really sick. So it's going to just include pain. Appendicitis. So we didn't talk about the appendix because it doesn't really have a function, but appendicitis is basically the inflammation of the appendix, and usually they're just going to go in and remove it because you don't really need it. But it can, if you rupture it, like that means it like bursts open, it actually could kill you. So you don't need it, but it could also kill you. So the symptoms would be pain in the lower right abdomen. So remember your right versus if you're looking at somebody's right, and nausea, vomiting. Usually if you have inflammation anywhere in your body, your white blood cell count is going to be higher because remember that's the one that's going to be fighting against diseases. So that's appendicitis. An inguinal hernia. Basically, this is where the intestine is going to protrude through a weak point or a tear in the abdominal wall. So you have muscles there, and if they get a little tear, you could actually have part of your intestines kind of poke out. Most of the time, they're just going to go in and do surgery, fix it up, and then it just takes a little bit of time to heal. Most of them, or a lot of them, actually occur in babies because their muscles aren't closed properly. So, and then just the careers for the digestive system. So you have the dentist. So we're starting with the mouth. You guys know what a dentist does. They clean your teeth. They make sure that you don't have any cavities. They're going to fill them. They're going to repair them. Anything that you need done on your teeth. And then you have the dental assistant that's basically helping the dentist make sure that they're handing them the tools and other things like that. So that's the dental assistant. The dental hygienist is actually the person who cleans your teeth before your dentist comes. They're also going to be the ones that kind of talk to you about how to properly take care of your teeth and take x-rays, all that different types of things. And then we have a dietitian, which hopefully makes sense why that career would be with the digestive system. They're going to make sure that you're eating the appropriate food and it's the right stuff that you should be eating. And then you have a CST, which is a central service technician. They are basically responsible for cleaning and taking care of any medical supplies that are needed during surgery or basically any time. So they're a central service technician. They're just going to be responsible for cleaning everything up. So that's the digestive system. Hope you guys are doing well. Let me know if you have any questions.